Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. Thought I'd give you an update on one of my other projects here. This is out working on my truck, working on a power steering pump. I had trouble finding the hoses that would fit, so after trying a couple and them not fitting, I went ahead and used my bike part cleaner. Works great to clean up those hoses, clean out the insides, and get them all shined up and ready to go back on. At the same time I'm working on this power steering pump, I'm putting in a sending unit for a temperature gauge for the water in the radiator. I added a cluster in below the instrument panel. All right, that unit in the back that has kind of a standoff shape to it, that's the new sender. The one with the red wire on it was the old sender. I took it out of that original position and just moved it into a spot into the water pump and ran a new wire for the new sender. It's the white wire there that's going along into the cab. Hopefully it won't be bothered by being zip tied to that alternator cable. Here's the new pump. I've been working to get it aligned and inserted. Lots of washers I've had to do in here to try and get it so that it lines up properly with the rest of the belt and everything. Still don't know if it's gonna fit. So today we're gonna put on the new pulley here, new billet aluminum pulley for it, and see how the alignment looks. Here's the old pulley. You can see it was a little dinged up. This is what was on it when I got the truck many years ago, 15 years ago or so. I was a little aggressive in getting it off of there. I didn't have the right puller, so while I was trying to get it out of there, I ended up just getting the whole shaft and everything out of the old pump. So it worked out in the end. Need a little bit of power steering pump hose. Looks like this bin should have some of the miscellaneous hoses in it. Got to match this one here. Came off of it. That one says fuel on it. Ah, that's probably right there. It says PS on it. And there you go. That should do. This is a pressure hose. One of the things I'm going to replace is this O-ring. So let's see if we can find a new O-ring for it. All right, no problem finding a replacement here for this O-ring. This is the old one there and this new one. However, when I was taking it off there, of course, while I was using the little pick, the old O-ring came off of there like a rocket ship and shot all the way up the wall there, and luckily came back down where I could find it, but always a challenge. As any project goes, there's some hang-ups here trying to get some of these brackets to fit properly, even though they already came off of there. This bracket here needed some extra washers in here, so I'm gonna make a spacer that's the right size for that. But because of that now, this bolt is too short, so I'm gonna have to get a new one of those. But what that's done is that's really aligned these slots to be in plane with the pulleys and the belts. Whereas before, they really weren't. They were kind of tipped backwards, so they really need to be cleaned up. And part of that then means getting the rest of the power steering pump aligned so that its shaft and everything is still in line with the pulleys. And I think it's pretty close now, and so I'm gonna bite the bullet. I'm gonna try and put on the new billet aluminum pulley I have for it and see how it fits. Problem is with this one is that if it isn't in alignment where it needs to be, it does not have the groove to pull it off easily. I've got to get a different puller to get it off of there if I need to adjust the depth or anything with washers behind here. Instructions are pretty straightforward. Place a wrench here, place a wrench there, and then turn them until the pulley is seated. Yeah, that's nice said fast. I'm fighting this thing, and we're maybe halfway there up under here. I finally got it clamped to the table because it was all over the place. It's really not made that you can put a ratchet on it, or I mean an impact wrench, and so it is slow going. We'll get there. The adventure with the pulley continues. Here's where we're gonna leave it for the day. We've stripped out the tool in 2 different parts of it. It really is not designed to do this apparently, and the pulley's not on all the way yet, so we're gonna try something different. Working on boring out a spacer block to go between the engine and that larger bracket for the power steering pump. All right, close enough for government work. This will be fine. It's about 1.25 inches long and just over 7/16 hole through it. All right, so this is the hardware that we're replacing here. This bolt was the one that screwed into the block. It turned out that it actually screwed into this insert, and one of the times I was taking it out, the insert came out with it. So we're gonna put the insert back in with a little red Loctite, make sure that that stays in there. The other thing was I was working to try and get the spacer here big enough so that it offset the bracket so everything was square, and this really was unsat. So that's what we made this morning, was that new spacer. Went to the hardware store, got a new extended bolt for it, grade 8 bolt, and so then these are gonna go in, little Loctite here, and then all that be assembled into the block. The other thing I've done so far today was just to get back to where I was. I went ahead and ran a tap down through here, found the right die that went on this, as well as on that part that threads into the shaft there. So I've cleaned up all those threads with taps and dies. I also took a pick and cleaned out the teeth that was left in the shaft. So we are back to square one, ready to try and get this pulley back on. I got a bunch of washers of miscellaneous sizes to help press that washer back on, or the pulley back on, and we'll see how that goes. Here's the washer stack and pulley installer. We'll give this another try. Here's how we're set up there. Standing on the quick grip and the breaker bar and turning the wrench. Change of plans. Really couldn't get the bracket to fit right, and so, I looked at cutting the standoffs off of the pump, the coolant pump, to try and move them back about 1/2 inch, but they didn't have the clearance for the depth of the screw holes. So I used the gravity saw and lopped off part of the bracket, and I'm gonna try and weld it on and offset it about 1/2 inch. This evening's adventure in painting is with this high temperature primer. It wants to be baked at 250 degrees for 30 minutes, stand for 30 minutes, and then another 400 degrees for 30 minutes, and then up to 600 degrees for another 30 minutes. The blue paint only goes up to, is rated for 500 degrees, so we'll do the first 2 baking sequences and curing and see how this works out. Unfortunately, the back of the pulley, which I thought was in good shape with a high temperature black primer, kind of stove color, is actually peeling off now from the paint, or the tape that I used to paint it with. So, whatever. Have the pulley for the water pump painted the inside and outside, blue and black, and it's ready to go back on. Parts are done. Here's the installed brackets. Look good. All right, after a little bit of doing, got everything assembled here. The power steering pump, a new pulley in there with the painted up, cleaned up brackets. Pulley on the water pump's back on, as well as the alternator is all set. Had to use a ratchet strap this time to pull it tight, get the belt nice and tight. Everything looks good. Next thing is to just test it. I did use a vacuum pump to attempt to bleed the power steering. We'll see if that worked. We'll also do the classic stop to stop to make sure that it's bled properly. All right, folks. I think we're coming to a conclusion with this. I just took the truck out for a test drive. The power steering pump is quiet and did a bunch of S-turns, stop to stop. I'll top off the fluids for that, but I think that came out pretty good. The other thing that I was working on was I had drained the radiator to put in a new sensor for the water temperature. And I'll show you here that the water temperature is working well. Now all 4 gauges are fully functioning, so that concludes that project as well. And so that's a good day. That's all for this project. Don't forget to like the video, and I'll put a video up here referencing the bead blast cabinet upgrades I'm going to be doing, as well as one over here for some of the welding that I had to do in this video on the bracket. I'll also put a link here to subscribe to my channel, and everybody have a good one.